One. Very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all our subscribers who are joining us from different parts of the world. We welcome you to this episode 3 of Season 1, International Citizenship Talk. Today it's going to be a special day. We have a very special guest with us. His name is Mr. Aaron Grau from IIUSA. He's the Executive Director. Before starting that, we would like to inform you that this particular vlog is made for educational purpose only. We do not recommend any individual or a corporate. At the same time, we always suggest you to kindly use your due diligence before making any kind of investment decisions. Let's start. Mr. Aaron, we welcome you to the International Citizenship Talk.
Mayank, thank you very much for having me. My name is Aaron Grau. I am the Executive Director of Invest in the USA, IIUSA, and we're very grateful for the opportunity to share some time with you. I've been with IIUSA now since 2018. We've certainly seen a lot of changes and challenges in the EB-5 ecosystem since then. But I'm happy to say that the program is as strong as ever, and we're looking forward to growth and good things to come. So thank you very much for having me.
Great to hear from you, Aaron. So how long have you been associated with IIUSA now as an Executive Director?
Well, as I say, I joined in 2018, so it's been several years at this point. Before that, I actually didn't know much about EB-5, so it had been a trial by fire, but I've learned more now than I ever thought I could possibly forget, and it's been a good ride. And again, I'm very, very happy to say that EB-5 is doing very well, and IIUSA is no small part of that.
Fantastic. So just for our audience perspective, they would like to understand more about EB-5. Even though it's sometimes a very complex process which they feel, and they have to go through a lot of these attorneys and these regional centers. But from an association perspective, what do you think? How EB-5 is going to structure itself, and how easy it's going to be in future for people to invest?
Well, in 2022, the U.S. Congress passed the RIA, a brand new law to reauthorize the EB-5 program. It provided a lot of safeguards for investors that were not in place before. So with regards to the ease of investing, I can certainly say that there are more protections available to investors, and investors should feel more confident in making their investment. The program itself is complicated, and we do always recommend that investors do their due diligence, work with their tax advisors, their legal advisors, to be sure that they're covering all of the elements that need to be addressed. IIUSA executes what we call the Passport Series, which are a number of events around the world. And in those events, which are all for educational purposes, we break down the EB-5 program into two categories: the investment side of things and the due diligence that's required for investment, and the immigration side of things to help people understand all the requirements that are necessary for successful completion of the immigration process. So it's a complicated program, but I think if an investor does their homework, pays attention to the details, works with trusted professionals, it's a very welcoming program, and it has a tremendous track record of success for its immigrant investors.
Fantastic. From an investor's perspective, and being an association yourself, what are your key roles and responsibilities specifically for attracting investments in the US?
Our key role and responsibility is to make sure that the program stays as strong as possible. We leave it to our members to actually attract investors to the United States, and I'm happy to say that all of our regional center members and the supporting cast of attorneys, business plan developers, real estate developers, they all have a tremendous pool of fantastic projects to attract investors. But the association's job is primarily twofold. One, education. As I just mentioned, we spend a lot of time abroad in developing educational programming so that people understand the EB-5 program. And the other is advocacy. We do a tremendous amount of work in Washington, D.C. and with the United States Congress to be sure that policymakers are educated and aware of the good things that the EB-5 program does. Our goals are simple. We're looking for a permanent authorization of the program to provide security for all future investors. We're looking to secure more visas so that more immigrant investors can participate in the program. And we're always looking for a better partnership and communication lines with the federal government itself, USCIS, which is the agency that oversees the program.
Interesting. There have been a lot of new amendments, new developments happening when it comes to EB-5. From the investors' perspective, what do you think are the key developments that they need to know before making any kind of decisions?
Well, as I said, the RIA, which stands for the Reform and Integrity Act, as you say, created a tremendous number of new requirements for regional centers and those facilitating the investment programs. I would say from an investor's perspective, in addition to the due diligence, it's always good to keep in mind that the Reform and Integrity Act focused a tremendous amount of its attention and energy on protecting the investor. So be sure that anybody that you're working with is complying with the Reform and Integrity Act and all of the disclosure statements that are required. Brokers also now need to disclose a tremendous amount of information about how they're compensated and how they're working with regional centers and their partners in the United States. So to answer your question, based on the new law, in addition to the due diligence that every investor should undertake, they should pay attention to the disclosure requirements that the new law requires.
Interesting again. Luckily, I've been part of few of your roadshows in India. And every time I meet people, I'm quite surprised with the new developments and the new ideas they come across when it comes to the investments in EB-5. So specifically for our audience, can you recommend what are the potential avenues of investment when it comes to EB-5? Because initially, most of the programs only provide you investments in real estate. But EB-5 is a much broader, has a much broader perspective. So if you can just throw some light on that.
Of course. So the new law creates set-aside categories for certain types of investments. These investments, if an investor has an opportunity to participate in one of these types of investments, the new law creates priority processing, which would put them at the front of the line for processing in any of these particular types of investments. And these types of investments, to your point, can either be in a rural area in the United States, in a targeted employment area, that is to say a high unemployment area in the United States, or in an infrastructure project. Infrastructure projects may or may not be real estate related. There are a number of projects in the United States that have included roads, railways, and that would obviously not necessarily be entirely real estate development. Other projects in rural communities sort of straddle the line between infrastructure and real estate. Obviously, there's always real estate development that needs to take place, even in an infrastructure project. But there are projects that are taking place around energy, shipping, logistics, all of which are EB-5 projects. And as long as an investor's investment creates the requisite number of jobs, it almost doesn't matter what type of project they invest in. But they should do their due diligence and make sure that what they're investing in is something that can help them meet their goals.
So specifically, for the different attorneys and different regional centers which are available in US, are these basically more experienced in one field or the other, or they are serving all the investment opportunities? For example, please. I mean, the idea here is to understand that is one regional center or an attorney authorized to help in multiple investments in EB-5, not restricting itself to either real estate or rural, but they are allowed to do in multiple facets?
That's a really good question. And the answer is yes, you're correct. The regional centers in the United States are certified by the Department of Homeland Security, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service, USCIS, I mentioned them before, to do business in the United States as a regional center and pool immigrant investors' capital for a particular project. But they're restricted only by a geographic region. They're not restricted by the type of project that they want to undertake. So we are seeing an uptick in rural communities receiving more project attention. And as I mentioned before, there are still energy projects, infrastructure projects, et cetera. And any regional center that decides to engage in one of those projects are certainly welcome to do so. Their projects have to be approved by USCIS as well. But to answer your question, no, they're not restricted by the type of project, only by the geographic region in which they applied to do business.
Great, great, great. So now the one of the interesting questions, in fact, this is pretty common every time we do any kind of conference related to EB-5, is that what are the common challenges and misconceptions when it comes to the EB-5 investments, and how IIUSA address them?
We address them through education, and we do our best to create educational materials, facilitate educational seminars and webinars to be sure that everybody understands the nuances of the program, as I mentioned before, both from an investment perspective as well as from an immigration perspective. One of the challenges that is a part of every EB-5 investor's process is understanding that the source of their funds and the path of their funds needs to be on the up and up. In other words, illegal or ill-gotten funds or confusing pathways of funds will raise flags with USCIS. It's important to work with an attorney to help discern the source of the funds and the path of the funds to be sure that they meet USCIS requirements. So that's one example on the investment side. And on the immigration side, there are a number of challenges as well, but they're not insurmountable. And as long as you have an immigration attorney who understands the process of filling out the forms and keeping your process going at the right pace, everybody will be fine. But it's important to note that the process can be confusing and convoluted, but with the right support, it's very doable, and thousands of people have completed the process successfully.
Interesting. So as an association, you have a lot of members who are either regional centers or attorneys. Do you give any kind of certification to them so that people who are investing or choosing them as one of the mediums to invest in US, they consider them to be in goodwill terms, specifically when they are known and they are pretty much registered with IIUSA?
That's a good question. We don't offer a certification per se, but we certainly like to think that those who are members of IIUSA hold themselves to a higher standard of business. IIUS, in order to be a member of IIUSA, you have to agree to certain terms with regards to ethics compliance and behavioral compliance. So members of IIUSA are certainly paying close attention to how they are perceived and how they operate in the marketplace because of the requirements that they have due to our membership. But we don't offer a certification per se to attorneys or to regional centers.
Interesting, because that's something that people might always come back to an associations for their recommendations. So I thought it will be interesting if there was something on those lines too. Maybe in future, possibly we could have something.
Perhaps.
So yeah. So apart from that, what do you think? I mean, of course, we have already spoken about the different investment opportunities through EB-5. How does it really help in job creations in US, and how is aiding the economy in US as well?
Well, real estate programs as well as non-real estate programs in the United States all are required. Each investor is required to demonstrate that their investment created at least 10 US jobs. So unlike a lot of programs around the world where it's only an investment that's required, perhaps in real estate, and a pathway is provided to citizenship in that regard, in the United States, every investment must create 10 US jobs. If you invest through a regional center, those jobs can be direct or indirect, meaning that the jobs can be either construction jobs or jobs that are created by the project itself, for example, retail. And if you count the fact that most Most of the investments actually create many more than 10 U.S. jobs. You start seeing multiples of hundreds of thousands of jobs created in the United States through the EB-5 program. So the economic development power of the EB-5 program in the United States is tremendous. It allows for projects that are otherwise unattainable, and those projects create jobs that otherwise wouldn't have existed. So first and foremost, the United States Congress created the EB-5 program as an economic development tool, and it's been wildly successful in the United States with billions of dollars invested and hundreds of thousands of jobs created.
Excellent. I think that really sums up well that when you are actually looking in for investment opportunities, automatically it's definitely going to help the economy any which ways. You're pumping money from different parts of the world in US. So that's one factor for sure. And apart from that, I think it's a good opportunity for people to experience a good environment which is going to help them grow better in their life, because you get a good lifestyle, safety, security, and health facilities in US any which ways. So that's a big advantage there as well. So moving forward, specifically from an association per se, what do you think? What are the future prospects of EB-5? Are there going to be more changes to it, or it's going to be more stable in the coming times? How do you see it?
I see EB-5 continuing to demonstrate itself as a successful program. I see that demonstration as something that the association can hold out to U.S. policymakers as evidence of EB-5's place in the United States economic development portfolio. And therefore, I see us with a tremendous ability to make sure that this program is permanent in the future. That'll be part of our lobbying push in 2026 and 2027, when we speak with the U.S. Congress again about reauthorizing the program, demonstrating evidence that this program is well worth its status as a permanent program. Once it's a permanent program, the stability of EB-5 becomes manifest, which creates more stability for investors. They don't have to worry about the program lapsing as it did in 2021. And it also gives us a platform to seek additional visas to expand the impact of EB-5's economic development in the United States. And of course, additional visas means additional opportunities for immigrant investors, hopefully to also decrease any backlog that may exist in a particular country. So the future of EB-5 is bright. The reauthorization that we were able to secure has given us an opportunity to demonstrate and articulate to policymakers the success of the program, and that in turn will translate into even more stable program and progressive program in the future. So I'm looking forward to what EB-5 brings to the table in 2025, 2026, 2027.
That'll be very interesting to know, because we have seen constant changes in the past, and in fact, all around the world, there are a lot of changes which are happening for the European side too. If you see the golden visa as well, there are a lot of amendments coming in for each and individual countries who are offering the golden visa. So this is a pretty evident story everywhere. Of course, things changes with time, and the requirements also changes accordingly. Increments and decrements in the investment keeps on happening. So this is pretty common. But lastly, your thoughts for somebody who's actually looking in for applying for EB-5 before we conclude.
Well, my thoughts for an immigrant investor considering whether EB-5 is right for them would be, as I mentioned before, as we both discussed before, to do your homework. Seek out the advice of trusted tax advisors, trusted legal advisors, both in your country as well as in the United States. In other words, conduct your due diligence. It's important to understand not only the immigration process in the United States and how long it may take and the requirements that you need to begin that process, but it's also important to do your due diligence on the investment itself. How long has the regional center that you're considering been doing business? How many projects have they completed in the past? What is their success rate in developing jobs per each investor? These are the kind of things that are critical to making a wise decision, not only as to whether to engage the EB-5 process from an immigration perspective, but which project you want to engage in. And it's going to be different for every investor. There's going to be different considerations from a personal perspective, from a financial perspective. So my thoughts for anybody considering the EB-5 program are, A, do your homework, complete your due diligence, and B, remember that as difficult and as convoluted as the process may be, you can make your way through it, and it's probably one of the fastest ways to citizenship in the United States. So give it careful thought and then give it a go.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Aaron. And before we conclude, I would like to inform all our audience that IIUSA is coming with the passport series in India in the month of September. And they'll be going to Bangalore, Pune, Mumbai, and Ahmedabad. So it's going to be a great opportunity for you to explore and understand the EB-5 process better. And I would recommend all of you to kindly visit as per your convenience and as per the location which we have advised you. The description, the details are available in the below description, so you can choose accordingly which location suits you best to attend. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Aaron. And I would request everybody to kindly like, subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon for more such videos. Thank you so much. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you, Mayank. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Take care. Cheers.
Cheers.